대화의 중심지로 여겨져요. 조선시대 왕실의 그 위엄과 격식을 제대로 알 수 있는 곳이거든요. 또 경복궁은 외국인 관광객이 많이 방문하는 그 서울의 랜드마크 중 하나입니다. 제가 경복궁을 사랑하는 이유 이제 아시겠죠? 한국에 대한 잘못된 정보를 바로 찾는 일, 여러분도 함께 해주세요.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Both the United States and Iran are showing no signs of backing down, with Iran saying the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed to anyone who threatens Iran. After President Donald Trump gave a 48-hour ultimatum, saying if Tehran does not fully open without threat the waterway, the U.S. military will begin targeting Iranian power plants. As Washington works to stabilize oil prices, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defended the government's decision last week to temporarily lift sanctions on Iranian and Russian crude, saying it's aimed at allowing Asian allies such as South Korea to buy supplies that would otherwise go to China. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been reappointed as president of the State Affairs Commission, as the regime holds the first session of the Supreme People's Assembly to approve key policies and review its 5-year economic plan. U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday U.S. time gave around 48 hours to reopen the strategically key Strait of Hormuz, warning he will strike its power plants if it fails to comply. Iran says the strait is open to all except those who violate Iranian soil, adding it would respond to attacks with strikes on U.S.-owned energy infrastructure. Our Park Jun-ah starts us off.
Iran responded to an ultimatum from U.S. President Donald Trump seeking the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz by saying the key waterway is not fully closed, it's under its control, and is only restricted to hostile and harmful traffic. On Saturday, Trump threatened to obliterate Iranian power plants, starting with the biggest one first, if the strait was not reopened to ships within 48 hours, with over 24 hours having already passed. Tehran also said it would take immediate punitive measures targeting U.S.-owned energy infrastructure in the Middle East in the event of such an attack.
However, if U.S. threats regarding Iran's power plants are carried out, the following punitive measures will be implemented immediately. The Strait of Hormuz will be completely closed and will remain closed until our damaged power plants are restored.
With the war now in its fourth week, Israel is continuing strikes on Iran and its proxies, while Iran has also claimed responsibility for multiple ballistic missile and drone attacks that injured scores of people near an Israeli nuclear research facility, as well as targets in Gulf countries, including the UAE and Kuwait. 박준한, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Washington has defended easing oil sanctions on Iran and Russia as NATO and allies move to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. officials warn of possible strikes on Iranian infrastructure while urging coordinated action to secure global energy routes. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defended Washington's temporary easing of sanctions on Iranian and Russian crude, stressing that the move is aimed at stabilizing oil prices and allowing Asian allies such as Japan and South Korea to buy supplies that would otherwise go to China. Speaking on NBC on Sunday, Bessent dismissed concerns that Iran could earn up to $14 billion in additional revenue, calling the estimate exaggerated. He said the sanctions relief would improve strategic conditions for U.S. partners and help manage short-term volatility in global energy markets. While acknowledging possible short-term price spikes, he argued that they would be manageable if they lead to long-term stability and prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Bessent also addressed President Donald Trump's warning that Iranian power plants could be targeted if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened within 48 hours, saying pressure can be necessary to achieve de-escalation and that operations to weaken Iranian positions are ongoing. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz also warned that President Trump is serious about the threat and suggested strikes could begin with one of Iran's largest power plants, though no target was specified. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and a coalition of 22 countries, including NATO members and partners such as South Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, is coordinating with Washington to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and ensure freedom of navigation. Rutte acknowledged Trump's frustration over what he sees as slow allied action, but said delays were unavoidable as countries prepared without prior knowledge of U.S. operations. Trump has warned NATO would be a paper tiger without U.S. leadership, while Rutte and Washington believe preemptive measures were necessary to enhance global security. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And in other news, K-pop megastars BTS marked their comeback with a massive free concert at Gwanghwamun Square here in Seoul over the weekend. Thousands of fans gathered on site to witness the event. Our culture correspondent Park Geon-woo shares us the highlights.
The 7 members lit up Gwanghwamun Gate, the main gate of Gyeongbokgung Palace, snapping a nearly 4-year hiatus in style.
I can't believe the 7 of us are all standing together on this stage today. Wow. We know it's been a long wait, right? Thank you for waiting for us.
The group opened with Body to Body, the opening track of their new album Arirang, blending a modern reinterpretation of the traditional folk song Arirang, performed by traditional singers. 7 more songs, including the album's lead track Swim, were performed live for the first time. The group capped the show with hits like Butter and Dynamite.
As long as you are with us, we always do our best to bring you great music and performances. Thank you!
RM, who had injured his ankle during rehearsals, performed with limited movement but showed no shortage of energy.
No matter what happens, we promise to keep swimming together. This is just the beginning. We love you, Army!
Fans waved their light sticks wildly, lighting the night atmosphere while dancing to the music, and some fans even burst into tears. BTS's agency said around 100,000 fans were on site.
It was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I got to hear new songs from BTS as well as my favorite songs.
Amazing, you know, it's just fun to be like with everybody in Seoul, kind of getting together for a big cultural event. Right?
The concert was also praised for running smoothly and safely.
Everybody knew what they were supposed to do. Nobody was trampling anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good.
That was made possible by the help of some 10,000 personnel, including police officers, as well as thorough security checks at multiple entry gates. The event also extended far beyond Korea, with the concert streamed live on Netflix to audiences in over 190 countries, topping the Netflix movie charts in 77 countries. After successfully finishing the much-anticipated comeback show, BTS will now head to the US to remind the world the group is back with more performances along the way before flying back to Korea to kick off the biggest K-pop world tour ever, Arirang, across 34 cities, starting in Goyang. 박건우, Arirang News.
So BTS comeback concert drew tens of thousands of fans after a break of more than 3 years caused by members' mandatory military service. For more on this, we're joined today by David Tisser, Professor of Korean Studies at Seoul Women's University. Professor Tisser, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
So, this was their first concert in more than 3 years because of their mandatory military service, and it was live streamed in 190 countries on Netflix. What did you make of the performance?
Yeah, it was a huge event. The build-up in South Korea and around the world has been going on for a long time. So there were a lot of eyes on this. And before I say my own opinions on the performance, I think we should remember that this was a performance for ARMY, for the fans of BTS who have waited so long. And you could see the outpouring of emotion from them, just how grateful, how happy not only were they to see these 7 members back together on stage again, but also perhaps to be with each other. And to be celebrating something together. It's a very tight-knit community. And not only that, they also had new songs, new content to really get into. So for ARMY and everyone involved in BTS, this was a huge thing. And I'm really happy that they all seem to have enjoyed it. If I say something on my own personal reflections on watching it here in Korea on Saturday night, I must confess I expected something a little bit bigger. Maybe it was the build-up, maybe it was the media reports of 260,000 people coming in and packed airports. But we're also used to seeing that Gwanghwamun Square filled with people, whether it's protests, whether it's World Cup events or Psy's concert down in 2012. So I understand the need for safety, but I expected to see a sea of red and purple, and instead we saw little sort of cordoned off sections. So perhaps my expectations were a bit different from what transpired.
I see. But Seoul did go out really big for this moment, turning Gwanghwamun Square into this K-pop stage. And this was the first time ever that the city has done this. What does the event mean for the K-pop culture? How might it help, sort of boost Korean culture on the global stage?
It's fascinating for Korean culture, and it's such a good thing. 7 years ago, by the way, I performed on that stage with a dynamic duo and performed Arirang. So that area has been used before for concerts and things like that. But what this does for Korean culture around the world is very important, because the whole world tuned in to this, the heart of Seoul, and they did it at Korea time as well. This was 8 p.m. This was prime time here in South Korea, but it wasn't around the world. And this brought all of these eyes, these millions of eyes, to look at Korea, to look at these symbolic landmarks, to hear these traditional sounds that were featured in some of the performance, and then to see these 7 Korean men. I think it's very symbolic that BTS chose to do this performance here in Korea, because they've spoken a lot about their roots and their identity and the language of their songs. But to do this here, I think was really something. It was really powerful. And, for those, I'm sure many people will know, but this is the stage of Seoul, South Korea, this Gwanghwamun Square. It's a site of historical memory. It's a site of trauma. It's a site of success. It's a site of political and social change. It's basically where, if something's happening in Korea, it will be felt and it will be reflected in that square. And, my 21 years here in South Korea, I've seen that square change a lot, and it's borne witness to many things. And now, in the annals of that history of Gwanghwamun, BTS and their fans, ARMY, will be able to put their name in there and say that they achieved something rather remarkable in that famous location.
Right, absolutely. And there's been a lot of attention on the financial impact of BTS concerts. And with some even comparing this to the way Taylor Swift tours boost local economies through tourism. So with BTS now set for a world tour now, what kind of economic impact could this have on the cities that they perform in?
Very good question, and it's kind of hard to quantify because I think a lot of what K-pop does, it's about community, it's about consciousness, it's about understanding, it's about love and joy, and these things you can't really quantify. You know, the effect of an artist is not something that we should, I don't think, be reducing to monetary value. If people are spreading joy or love around the world, that's something that we need more than ever at the moment, and that's something that BTS are capable of. In terms of economics, as you've asked specifically, I'm sure from this, Netflix is getting very rich. Bang Si-hyuk and Hybe are getting very rich, as the members of BTS. Whether this is going to transfer into the Korean economy remains to be seen. You know, of course, there will be some pull, there will be some tourism, but there will also be expenditures as well. There's a lot of reports and talk in the domestic media about the effect that this had on local businesses around Gwanghwamun. So it's big. We're talking lots and lots of money. But will this transform the lives of day-to-day citizens in South Korea? That's a different topic. But what it does do is this, is that, perhaps my last point on this, is that South Korea was not widely known. I mean, Psy in 2012 really put the country on the cultural map. And this country wants to be recognized. It wants to be seen. It wants to be heard. And that's what BTS are doing at the moment. And that's something of which I think they should be very proud. And the citizens of Korea are also proud of being recognized for who they are.
Right, and BTS also released their new album, Arirang, and it's already topping global charts. And I hear their new album's already sold 4 million copies on their first day. How significant is this?
I think this is what everyone expected. When BTS release music or content, we expect those kind of numbers. It's a global thing. And so those charting positions are well-deserved, well-earned, and it's made the ARMY very happy. I think what's more interesting to me is how this album and the songs will resonate in the coming months and years. Will it become a cultural event? Because many things emerge and they ride the top of charts, but then they sink. I mean, if you look at K-pop Demon Hunters, Golden, and that, it became something defined. And that's what important pieces of work do. Whether this new album, Arirang, will have that long cultural fandom and on broader society, we're only going to have to wait and see. Obviously, it's got off to a very, very good start with all the songs charting so high and lots of numbers. But remember, you know, pop music and art is not just about numbers, it's about the impact that it has on the culture. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure many people will be hoping that it does have a big impact. Let's perhaps address that question again in 6 months or a year and see what we say about it then.
Right. We'll have to see how that goes. All right, Professor Tisser, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been reappointed president of the State Affairs Commission during the first session of the regime's rubber stamp parliament, following last month's ruling party Congress. The Korean Central News Agency said on Monday that the decision was made on the opening day of the 15th Supreme People's Assembly session. At the same meeting, senior aide Cho Yong-won was elected chairman of the Assembly Standing Committee, the regime's top parliamentary post, replacing Choi Ryong-hae. North Korea usually convenes a parliamentary session after a party congress to formalize laws and policies needed to implement key decisions adopted at the gathering. South Korea's ruling Democratic Party and the government have agreed to drop a supplementary budget of around 25 trillion Korean won, over $16.6 billion to respond to economic fallout from Middle East tensions. The plan was discussed at a high-level meeting with the presidential office at the National Assembly on Sunday, where officials said the budget will be financed using higher-than-expected tax revenues, avoiding additional bond insurance to limit any impact on financial markets. The DP said it plans to pass the extra budget in the National Assembly by April 10th. The extra funding will focus on easing high oil prices, supporting vulnerable groups and exporters, and stabilizing supply chains. Meanwhile, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has nominated Shin Hyun-song, an official at the Bank of International Settlements, as the new governor of the Bank of Korea. Shin previously served as a professor at Princeton University and a financial advisor to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. He also worked as the Presidential Secretary for International Economic Affairs in 2010. Shin is described as a globally recognized expert in international finance and macroeconomics, with both academic depth and practical insight. He responded to the nomination, calling it an honor, but added that he feels a heavy responsibility with ongoing economic uncertainties around the world due to the situation in the Middle East and U.S. tariff policies. And South Korean lawmakers have approved bills establishing a new investigation agency and creating a separate prosecution service. This marks a pivotal step in restructuring the country's justice system by separating investigative and prosecutorial powers. Our political correspondent An Sung-jin has the details.
South Korea's National Assembly has passed bills to reform the country's criminal justice system by separating investigative and prosecutorial powers. One bill led by the ruling Democratic Party establishing a new serious crime investigation agency passed on Saturday with 166 votes in favor and 1 against. The newly created investigation agency placed under the Interior Ministry will handle 6 major crime cases. Those cases are corruption, economic crimes, defense industry-related offenses, drug crimes, threats to national security, and cybercrime. Its jurisdiction also extends to offenses committed by officials in judicial and law enforcement institutions. This follows the passage of legislation on Friday creating a separate prosecution service. The bill faced strong opposition from members of the main opposition People Power Party who held a filibuster and then boycotted the vote, arguing that the reforms undermine the justice system. With the boycott, the legislation passed with 164 votes in favor, 1 against. This bill states that the prosecution service will be limited to indictment functions and structured into a 3-tier system of central, regional, and local offices. Prosecutors will not be able to direct or supervise police investigations, and new legal provisions introduce stricter accountability, including dismissal as a disciplinary measure without formal impeachment processes. The 2 bills are set to formalize a system in which investigations and indictments are handled by separate independent bodies. The new judicial framework will take effect in October once the current prosecutor's office is officially abolished. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. Israel has struck a major bridge in southern Lebanon and ordered troops to destroy crossings over the Litani River as it ramps up its campaign against Hezbollah. The Israeli military struck a bridge on the coastal highway near Tyre on Sunday, damaging a critical route linking southern and central Lebanon. It had issued a warning earlier in the day, and Lebanese media later reported a second strike on the same crossing. Israel's defense minister says troops have been ordered to destroy all crossings over the Litani River used for militant activity in a move aimed at restricting Hezbollah's movement. He also says forces will speed up demolitions of homes in frontline villages to create a buffer zone along the border. Lebanon's president called the strikes collective punishment. Human Rights Watch warns that isolating southern areas of Lebanon could trigger a humanitarian crisis. In the U.S., President Donald Trump has ordered immigration officers to the U.S. airports starting Monday to support security operations as a funding standoff disrupts travel nationwide. The plan would send ICE officers to assist at airports unless Democrats agree to fund the Homeland Security Department. White House border czar Tom Homan said the agents could check IDs or guard exit lanes, allowing Transportation Security Administration staff to focus on screening. Hundreds of thousands of DHS workers, including TSA agents, have been working without pay after funding expired last month. The administration said hundreds of ICE officers could be deployed, focusing on major airports with long delays. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell reiterated the independence of the central bank as political pressure over interest rates continue to build. In a taped message accepting the Paul A. Volcker Public Integrity Award on Saturday, Powell praised former Fed Chair Paul Volcker for his willingness to raise rates in the 1980s despite a political backlash. Powell says independence and integrity are inseparable. His message comes as President Donald Trump continues pressing the Fed to lower rates. The Justice Department is also investigating Powell over renovations at the Fed's headquarters. Powell has said he will remain in his role until that probe is resolved. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz conservatives moved toward victory in Rhineland-Palatinate on Sunday, while the Social Democrats faced the loss of a state they had controlled for 35 years. Early projections put the Christian Democrats at 30.8% and the Social Democrat coalition partners at 26%, positioning Merz's party to win the western state and form a coalition with its federal partner, the SPD. Christian Democrat candidate Gordon Schneider is now on course to replace the sitting Social Democrat premier. The far-right AfD also surged, doubling its previous share of the vote to around 20% and posting its strongest result yet in a western German state.
We can surely tell spring is here with the appearance of buds on trees and spring flowers blooming. And it's going to feel more like late April this afternoon. In fact, this week will feel more like mid to late April. But you know that warmth comes with a sharp gap between lows and highs, so layering is key. Along with warmer temperatures, air quality is an issue today. Ultrafine dust levels will reach the bad range across the capital area and Chungcheongnam province, and we will notice the other regions getting worsening as the day goes on. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 19 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gwangju will soar to 20 and 21 degrees respectively under mostly sunny skies. Meanwhile, the air is getting dry with dry weather alerts being issued across regions. Expect mostly sunny skies and above average temperatures to continue this week, while Jeju Island will see more frequent chances of rain in the coming days.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
저는 이제 손글씨 쓰는 거를 되게 좋아했었는데요. 처음에는 이제 취미로 시작을 했고 이제 하다 보니까 글씨를 쓰는 행위 자체가 정서적으로 돌봄을 시켜주더라고요. 제가 많이 힘든 시기에 글씨를 쓰기 시작했었거든요. 돌이켜보면 힘든 시기를 글씨로 극복했었던 것 같아요. 이제 글이 갖는 힘이 있어요. 네, 그래서 이제 저도 글씨를 처음에 형적으로만 이렇게 표현을 하고 그림 그리듯이 썼었거든요. 근데 쓰다 보니까 점점 글을 쓰게 되더라고요. 이제 글이 글씨가 되고 글씨가 글이 되고 이 메시지적인 부분이 크다 보니까 그런 어떤 직관적인 힘을 갖고 있는 것 같아요. 이렇게 글씨를 쓰는 행위 자체가 되게 아름답다고 느꼈거든요. 그래서 이걸 쓰는 순간을 한번 예술로 만들어 보면 좋겠다 해서 제가 글씨를 원래는 이렇게 책상 위에서 썼다면 어떤 벽면에 세우듯이 마치 춤을 추듯이 그렇게 이제 글씨를 퍼포먼스 공연으로 한번 해볼까 해서 이렇게 시작하게 된 것 같아요. 외국인 분들도 이걸 뜻을 알지 못해도 되게 아름답다고 느끼시고 예쁘게 봐주시는 것 같더라고요. 여러 기억이 있지만 또 카타르에서의 경험이 되게 기억이 나요. 어떤 분이 이제 보시면서 우시더라고요. 그런 장면들이 어쩌면 저를 계속 이렇게 하게 하는 그런 원동력이 되는 것 같기도 해요. 해외 나가면 오히려 더 애국심이 생기더라고요. 그래서 세계 시장으로 나가고 싶어요. 공연이 될 수도 있고 교육이 될 수도 있을 것 같아요. 이런 한글을 쓰는 행위 자체가 지금은 사실 손글씨도 잘 안 쓰는 시대지만 오히려 이런 시대일수록 되게 더 가치 있는 일이 될 것 같다고 이제 제가 믿거든요. 그리고 제가 그런 역할을 할 수 있으면 되게 좋을 것 같아요.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation. Bringing news just for you is Monday, March 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Cheska.
Happy Purple Monday, everyone!
Happy Purple Monday! Also, we have Brooke with us today.
Big Borahae, very happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So today we're starting off the new week by talking about one of the biggest global pop moments of the year. So over the weekend, BTS finally made their long-awaited return to the stage, electrifying fans around the world. And it wasn't just fans in Korea who got to experience it live, as the comeback concert was streamed online. And what made it even more special was a setting, as it took place at Gwanghwamun, the iconic main gate of Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul. So the big question is, after all this anticipation, did they live up to the hype? So how was their comeback in your opinion, Jessica?
First of all, congratulations! Woo! I'm sure so many people around the world have been waiting for this moment, right,
Yes.
Brooke?
Right.
Yes.
Including Brooke here.
Yes, Brooke here too, as she will speak about the excitement that she felt. But I honestly thought it was absolutely spectacular, but just beyond the scale of the performance itself, I almost have a huge respect, admiration, and this like really warm gratitude for BTS for being a cultural ambassador of South Korea, because the location they picked, Gwanghwamun, is extremely significant, as it has Sejongdaewang, King Sejong the Great, the Lee Sun-shin 장군, General Lee Sun-shin's statue, and I think they filmed it during one of their live shows to show that this is a very historic and iconic place of South Korea's history and modern history as well. And they even added a very traditional Korean performance with 국악, and I believe Suga said, one of the members said they picked specifically Gwanghwamun because they wanted the album Arirang to represent their identity. And BTS probably knew that wherever location they picked, they could have picked anywhere. It was probably going to draw the most amount of attention in that moment from the world, and they wanted to bring that all to where the K was.
Right, exactly. So by choosing Gwanghwamun and incorporating elements like traditional 국악, which we also saw during the performances, BTS really seemed to be highlighting the roots and embracing the role as cultural ambassadors. So what were your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh.
Show us your excitement.
Well, I'm definitely not having any Monday blues today because I have
Your
just
Monday
been,
purple?
Yes,
Exactly.
I'm so pumped this whole weekend to talk about BTS's comeback today. It's been quite the emotional roller coaster that kicked off with the album dropping. I have had it on repeat the entire weekend. Unfortunately, I could not get tickets to the concert, but I did watch it, and it was just phenomenal. I really loved that they not only performed their new music, but also they gave us some of the classics like Mic Drop. I was screaming when that came on, you know, Microcosmos. I got very emotional seeing kind of the sea of ARMY just singing that song together after so long. It was really a magical, historic moment, I think, and it was great to witness it. In terms of the new album, I loved it from start to finish. I would say my favorite songs right now, it changes often, would be Like Animals, Normal, and Aliens, but they're all amazing. And I would say listening to this album, I could really hear the growth as artists in every track, because as we know, it's been a long, long wait, but during that time, they got to explore themselves as solo artists, and I think it actually made them better as a group. The sound was so mature, but it also had throwbacks to their previous eras. I think it has a little something for everyone, and I think for a group like BTS, they've been around since 2013. It's been almost 15 years. Their discography is enormous, just hundreds of songs, and so to be able to continuously challenge yourself and reinvent yourself as artists to give us new, exciting, fresh music, I think that's the mark of living legends for sure.
I mean, I was also listening to the album coming to work today, and I have to say, like, the quality of the songs are so great.
Yes.
They really have lived up to the hype. And for the fans, hearing all 7 voices together again after so long clearly meant a lot, not just musically, but also personally. And it really speaks to BTS's ability to keep evolving while still staying deeply connected to their audience. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. Following the release of their new album on Friday, global K-pop sensation BTS took to the stage for their long-awaited live comeback performance the very next day. Held at Gwanghwamun, the iconic main gate of Gyeongbokgung Palace, the performance blended Korea's rich cultural heritage with powerful live performances from their new album Arirang, creating a moment that resonated far beyond the K-pop scene. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at Arirang, what kind of album it is, why its title has been drawing so much attention, the meaning behind the name, and how it's sparking renewed global interest in Arirang in diverse and unexpected ways. So as we just saw in the video, BTS is back with a project that's not just a comeback, but a statement. So let's start with the album itself. So what kind of album, Cheska, is Arirang?
So the album, as the title suggests, is centered on BTS's root and identity. Now, in addition to the title track Swim, which Brooke absolutely loves, the album features a total of 14 great songs, including Body to Body, Hooligan, and Aliens. It is also the result of what many are calling an Avenger-level production team, because it brought together several Grammy-winning producers. And also the title itself references Arirang, which is one of the Korea's most iconic folk songs, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later on. But this resulted in the album being a blend of modern pop, and hip-hop with a subtle traditional influences in melody and storytelling that you can spot from here and there. Now, some of the tracks reportedly explore themes like identity, belonging, and feeling like an outsider in a rapidly changing world. You can already tell by the title of the song being like aliens. And this one personally left a very special impression to me because in the Western world, and Brooke knows this, you call immigrants and foreigners as aliens, you know, undocumented aliens. And I personally never liked that title. So when I listened to the lyric of the song, there's a line that goes, quote, "Everybody know now where the K is." And I was so proud because they knew they were the cultural ambassador that put K on the map. So thank you, BTS.
It is really meaningful, and also like I heard they produced and wrote a lot of the songs in LA.
Yes.
But I still like how they incorporated traditional Korean elements to it as well.
Very much so, about their identity, like what they felt when they were working overseas, some of the things that they probably went through when they were being Korean, trying to be in an international scene.
Right, exactly. So this is a very deeply personal and ambitious project. And of course, fans are diving deep into the music as we will do today as well. So let's talk about the song Swim and its music video. So what is this song about and what stood out to you personally, Brooke?
Well, I like that Swim kind of sounds like what it's about. It's very gentle. It sounds like kind of warm waves washing over you, and that's what they wanted. And to talk about the music video, you've been seeing some clips of it as we go. It features the actress Lily Reinhardt, and it shows BTS at sea, kind of reflecting upon themselves and their future as they move forward. And the ocean setting actually directly ties to the song's message, which, as described in a press release, quote, centers on the resolve to keep swimming onward through life's many tides. And what it does is frames this choice to move at one's own pace through life's many waves. It frames it as love for life itself. And I think we can all kind of relate to that. It's sometimes you feel like you're drowning in life's struggles, but the message to just keep swimming and keep going, I think is a really powerful and comforting one. And in terms of how the members themselves have described this track, Swim, Jimin shared that while the album as a whole focuses on, you know, their roots and their history and their journey up until this point, Swim is supposed to represent the group right now at its present. He added that I think this track marks the beginning of a whole new chapter of BTS. He also said, we wanted to show that we're still moving forward at our own pace. There's that phrase again, very important. He also noticed that this track is supposed to connect our past stories with our future dreams. And I think this theme kind of carries on through the whole album. It's about tradition and history, but also the future and the modern elements that they are bringing to it. And BTS also said that they hope that Swim can be like the folk song Arirang, this iconic song that is passed down. It's got a simple but very powerful melody that everyone knows. And I think they're hoping that, like Arirang, Swim will linger and remain in people's hearts for a very long time. I know it definitely will for me.
And I think it means a lot how for them also, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure. So I think that them choosing the phrase, choosing to move forward at your own pace really probably resonates with themselves as well as the fans itself. So it feels both comforting and powerful at the same time. So now beyond the title song, the album title has also been generating a lot of buzz. So why did BTS just choose to name the album Arirang?
I think it's because it's one of the most happiest and greatest network in South Korea. Arirang here. But Arirang is actually one of the most iconic folk songs here in Korea. It's a melody that almost every Korean knows and can sing. And by naming the album Arirang, BTS is highlighting their cultural roots and identity. Now, the very starting point of their journey. Now, in the interview, they emphasize a few times that BTS's core root and identity has been and will always be Korean, and they wanted to not only reconnect, but almost like firmly reestablish their identity. I actually watched a few of the interviews, and it almost felt like even after all their big international tours and exposure, and switching, like you said, probably the pressure they felt too, they don't want to be swept away by the noise or the facade or the spotlight, but always have something that they can come back to, and that was probably their identity. And member V said that the song Arirang represents just that, because it is a very beautiful and traditional song that has a meaning of deep longing, yearning, and even the han that Koreans have, right? The deep grief and the overcoming of the sadness and struggles in life, which many Koreans in history and in songs have put it together in sentiment.
And we just saw a clip of the performance of Arirang, the rendition of Arirang in the live performance. And the thing is, it made me remember like how great that song actually is. And also I heard my mom actually singing along to it over the weekend as well.
It shows.
Right. So it's clear they wanted to go beyond individual stories to highlight a shared cultural identity. And it seems they've been building that message even before the comeback. So how did BTS convey the message of Arirang, Brooke?
Yes, BTS is so good at incorporating a storyline into their work, into their concept. And so they first revealed the story behind this album on March 13th through an animated teaser. And it was inspired by a real global journey of Korea's most iconic folk song. We've been talking about it, Arirang. So this video, it begins in 1896. And like I said, it was inspired by real historical recordings made in Washington, D.C., where pay attention to that number, 7 Korean students studying abroad first recorded Arirang on phonograph cylinders, now considered the earliest known recordings of Korean music, and they are now preserved at the U.S. Library of Congress. Now, that detail is reflected in the teaser itself, which you're seeing right now, where BTS handle the cylinder and they link past to present. The narrative then follows the spread of Arirang across the world before transitioning to BTS's own journey, starting with their 2013 debut and culminating in a 2026 performance at Gwanghwamun Square. And I remember I mentioned 7, so the parallel between the 7 students in 1896 and the 7 BTS members today really highlights a symbolic continuity. These 7 people across generations are carrying on the Korean legacy, the legacy of Arirang. The campaign slogan of the animated teaser was, "What is your love song?" And the project was meant to emphasize Arirang as this timeless expression of Korean identity, resilience, emotion, and it's evolved across generations, and it continues to resonate worldwide with young people now with BTS's music. So yeah, like I said, they really just had so much behind this music that you wouldn't know unless you really dive into it, and I'm glad that we're getting to share it with the world today.
And it's so special for fans to get a chance to really dive and discover these little details. So it's really a powerful way to connect past and present, and it really shows how BTS is positioning itself not just as a K-pop group, but as a cultural bridge. And to gain a more personal perspective, we're going to speak with a BTS fan who attended the comeback show. That conversation is coming up right after a break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Majid, who was among the lucky fans to attend BTS's highly anticipated comeback show over the weekend. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi Sujin, thank you so much for having me, and hi Jessica, hi Brooke, thank you so much for having me here at Arirang.
Welcome.
So Majid, what was it like experiencing BTS's comeback performance in person?
Oh my god, like it's so difficult to describe in words, and like you were saying, I'm one of those luckiest ones. So even I can't, every day I wake up, even today I was like, was it a dream or no? Like I was actually there, I was present there, I was able to see all the 7 members together after 4 years, and of course, millions of fans were watching them live, but I was one of them, and as you can see in the video, I was super excited. So it was literally like it was a dream coming true moment, and also like once in a lifetime moment. So I was super excited, and I had so much fun, over there, and especially being surrounded by armies from young kids to even olders. I saw Jumas, Ajashis, people from every country over there. It was such a spectacular moment, and finally, when RM came there and he said, "Sanyan mane insadriga samida bangtan sonyan dan." So the whole crowd, the whole city, it was like, it was like shattering. The grounds was literally shattering. So it was such an amazing moment to be there.
I'm so happy. Even just getting the energy from you is just as exciting. And as we discussed, the location of where they opened, the comeback, and the album is very Korean. So was there something that felt uniquely Korean in the album Arirang to you?
Of course, like Jessica was talking about and like Brooke was talking about the song Swim. First of all, it was the whole album. It itself is like a love letter to Korean culture, Korean tradition. So even if you see, after they perform, while they were performing Body to Body, at the end, they even brought Korean traditional orchestra over there. So of course, everyone was super excited. They were like, wow, we are looking at the performance of Korean traditional folk song over there. So when they announced the album, so of course, not many people would know Arirang. Of course, in Korea or Koreans would know, but like people or armies abroad, they didn't know what Arirang is. So everyone started searching about what is Arirang. So first of all, the whole hype BTS created about Korean culture, this Korean folk song. Oh, by the way, my army bomb is here, so I keep on shaking it. So the whole hype about Arirang was huge. Everyone came to know what Arirang is about. And they were thinking like maybe there will be a song itself, Arirang. But then, they found out in Body to Body, at the end, they had this Arirang performance over there. So first of all, the whole album itself is tradition, is a love letter to Korean tradition, to Korea itself. And secondly, one of the songs, I'm sure you have listened, the number 29. So when I was listening to number 29, I was like, maybe there's a glitch. Did something happen? Like, why I can't listen anything? But then actually, the number 29 song itself is a tribute, or it's paying honor to the sacred belt of King Songdok. And if you can, then it's there in Gyeongju National Museum over there. So this whole number 29 song, and itself, again, tells people, about Korean culture. So now people know what the sacred bell is, where it's located. So I'm sure a lot of people will be going to Gyeongju, going to the National Museum of Gyeongju to see that sacred bell. They now know about Korean history also. So again, this song was itself again, our love letter to Korean tradition. And now their performance wearing modern hanbok over there. And it was such an amazing night. And again, the location itself was very amazing to choose. So the BTS themselves are the official ambassadors of Korean culture, I would say.
Well, I think the phrase love letter to Korean culture is so beautiful, such a great way to put it. And of course, as a fellow Army, I'm so incredibly happy for you that you got to have that experience in person. Congratulations. My last question for you would be, what about this album sparked your interest in learning more about Arirang?
Oh, first of all, I knew Arirang also. I could sing 1 or 2 lines, but again, I didn't know deep meaning behind it. And I didn't know Arirang had so much different versions. So when BTS announced Arirang, I came to know that, I have seen their performance on Jindu Arirang. So there are different versions of Arirang. And then I found out there are different versions, a lot of versions. So first of all, of course, along with me, many army like Brooke, we start learning more about Arirang itself, the Korean culture. And I know a lot of foreigners, armies, they are now learning Korean language. They are learning Korean traditional songs. Even I met some armies over there. They were like, we are learning pansori, we are learning jangu and the hegum, the Korean traditional instruments because of Arirang. So the message that BTS spread is it's amazing. Everyone right now is learning Korean culture. They are loving Korea. And so many armies were there, and a lot of armies will be coming here to see the Korean culture, to see Gyeongwamun, to see King Sejong statue, the statue of Isun Shin, and to visit Gyeongbokgung Palace. So because of Arirang itself, a lot of people are now learning Arirang itself and a lot about Korean culture and Korean history. So thanks to BTS for showing Korea, showing Korean culture to the whole world. And thanks to all the armies for learning Korean culture now.
Well, I'm really glad that you had such a great experience, and it's always great to have you on the show, Mujit. So thank you so much.
Like I was saying, the title is Arirang, and being on Arirang, like Jessica was saying, it's one of the best broadcast channels we have. This is such an honor to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Have a lovely Purple Monday. Thanks a lot.
You too, Mujit.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a BTS concert attendee about what the performance was like, where he felt that distinctly Korean sentiment came through and how this album sparked his curiosity about Arirang. Now, to really understand the interest, let's take a step back and look at what Arirang actually is. So can you walk us through what Arirang is and what it means?
So Arirang is a traditional Korean folk song, as we talked about, that has been passed down orally and continuously reinterpreted over generations. It is also recognized as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage of humanity. There are many different theories about the origin of the word Arirang, reportedly more than 30, but it's often loosely interpreted as beloved or longed for person, therefore why it's probably the love letter for Korea. And especially the structure of the song is very open and flexible, which is why there's countless variations. And throughout Korean history, Arirang has actually carried many meanings, and its lyrics often express love, longing, and the hardship of life. So it has been used in a lot of different instances, such as Japanese occupation of Korea as a resistance song, and later in the 1960s in the context of democratic movement. And in 2002, one of the most historic and iconic moments in South Korea history, the FIFA World Cup song, where it became a popular and vibrant cheering song. I believe there's about 4,000 different versions of the song right now, and there are many, many variations of the song. You can even sometimes spot restaurants named after Arirang, and of course, the greatest network in South Korea.
Of course. So that really shows how Arirang has evolved alongside Korean history and how it's a cultural thread connecting generations. And for many, including international audiences, it also carries a powerful symbolic image. So as an international fan, Brooke, what does Arirang represent?
Well, from an international perspective, I came to know about Arirang after moving to Korea, and to me it just represents Korean identity. It's a short but powerful word, and it has a shared sense of history and a collective feeling that transcends generations. And also, of course, as we've been saying, the channel we are broadcasting on right now, Arirang TV, I have been working here for almost half the time that I have been in Korea. So when I think about Arirang, I think about my journey as a foreigner making a home here in Korea, getting to share stories and talk to Korean people about this country, learn more about it. And so I hope that other international visitors and foreign fans can learn more about Arirang like I did, and have it become, close to their heart as well.
If you want to learn more, don't forget to tune into our show, our broadcast as well.
Yes.
From a global stage to a centuries-old melody, BTS's Arirang shows how tradition and modern pop can come together in powerful ways. It's not just a comeback, it's a reminder of how culture can evolve, connect, and resonate across generations and borders. And as interest in Arirang continues to grow, it's clear this story, as well as BTS's journey, is just beginning. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Cheska.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
And also Brooke.
Oh, best show ever. I love Arirang.
And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Hopefully this inspires you to let Arirang be the soundtrack to your day. We are News Generation.